Welcome to our show. This week, in our new retro games, we review the incredible Sherwood, another hit by Psytronik Software for the Commodore 64, followed by Moon Patrol 500 by Jotted 666 for the Commodore Amiga, an amazing remaster of a classic arcade. Also, we play the wonderful remake of the Amstrad classic Oh Mummy, but it's a version for Commodore 64 by Blazon. In our hardware review, we take a look at a great portable console effort by Anbernic with the RG40XXV and how it stands next to their best effort so far, the RG351M. Our DOS Vault opens to reveal the simply spectacular Exolon, The Continuing Adventures, an unofficial sequel to the classic smash hit. And in our retrospect, we give a fresh review to the classic biotech horror action-adventure game Bioforge by Origin Games. In our retro adventures, we play the masterpiece that is Neon Heart City, a point-and-click adventure game with a cyberpunk mood, and in our Adventure Game Retrospect, we revisit the lost files of Sherlock Holmes, the case of the Serrated Scalpel, a beautiful and mysterious adventure of the British literacy iconic character. Finally, in our history lesson, we put on our helmets and get ready to dive into the 80s price wars that shaped the computer industry. So, stay with us for another amazing episode. We begin with the first game of the week. This is Sherwood by Psytronik Software for the Commodore 64. This is a platform adventure game with a hint of puzzle in it. You play the character Robin Hood, and after your disguise has been blown right in the middle of Prince John's courtyard, you must find a way to escape unscathed back to the Sherwood forest, using nothing but your witch and your magic arrows. The game has you jumping from platform to platform, trying to reach the next screen, collecting magic arrows, only 3 at a time mind you, and treasure as you make your way into freedom. You can use the arrows to vanquish your enemies straight up, or you can ricochet an arrow to wipe them out or extinguish special flames that hides ropes and other secrets to help you on your escape. Should your arrows get spent, some more will appear on the screen for you to collect, if you can reach them, of course. The game's gameplay is familiar and yet original and refreshing at the same time. Using a few new mechanisms here and there manages to be a very exciting and fun game. The graphics are truly great, with excellent palette use and wonderful animation. The game is complemented by a great soundtrack along with very good sound effects. The controls are very easy to use, allowing Robin to aim even diagonally to make the gameplay deeper and your options more. This is not only an addictive platform game, but also one of the best in the category. The graphics receive a 9.5. The controls a 9.1. The music and sound effects a 9.2. The gameplay a 9.4. For a total of 9.3 and the title of the Game of the Week. Another excellent game from Psytronik and a good start for this week's reviews. Our next game is a remastered port of a classic arcade game from way back in the early 80s. This is Moon Patrol 500 for the Commodore Amiga by Jotted 666. The game is of course a port and remaster of the classic Moon Patrol by IREM, the game that pretty much introduced parallax scrolling into our gaming lives and was a major hit back in the day on the arcade rooms. The premise of the game is simple. You must drive your vehicle from point A to point B, performing your patrol on the moon, avoiding gaps on the surface, destroying attacking alien spacecrafts, and dodging enemy fire. It's easier said than done, of course, as the game, in every advancing course you drive through, ramps up the difficulty. The graphics of the game are very well made and are a complete replica of the original arcade's graphics. All the animations and colors are here, along with the various areas of the moon. The game comes in 3 flavors of system support: for the OCS's Amigas, the ECS, and of course the AGA, with the last one of course being the most faithful of them all. The controls are simple and very responsive, and the game is accompanied by the same intro music and in-game sound effects as the original. The graphics are awarded a 9. The controls also a 9. The music and sound effects a 9.2. And the gameplay a 9.1. For a total of 9.1. This is an exemplary port and remaster of a classic, fun arcade game. You should try it out. Our third and last new retro game review is for the game Oh Mummy for the Commodore 64 by Blazon. This is of course a new port of the classic Amstrad CPC game for the Commodore 64. The game's goal is to walk all around the areas of the Egyptian tombs to paint them with your footprints. When you complete a walk-around of an area surrounding a tomb, the contents of it are revealed, and these can vary from treasures, key to the exit, or even an angry mummy that awakes to hunt you down. Speaking of mummies, the main adversary of the game is of course the mummies that hunt you down for invading their tombs. The game is a combination of Pac-Man logic and the classic arcade's Amidar gameplay. You must paint the entire round with your footprints, avoid the enemies, and head to the exit. Simple, but extremely fun. The game comes with great sound effects and a classic theme that gets really elevated with the assistance of the SID chip. Controls are simple, but I do feel that it is kind of hard and unresponsive when it comes to turning a corner to the point you want, making the game harder than it should be, especially in the latter rounds. The graphics receive a 9. The controls a 7.8. The music and sound effects a 9.3. The gameplay an 8.9. For a total of 8.7. A great and fun puzzle adventure game that needs just a touch better controls to really shine. Welcome to this week's hardware review. We have something different again this week. I have here 2 portable gaming devices from Anbernic. I'm sure you all know the company. One is a much older model. It's the RG351M that I'm proud to call myself the owner of this. This is one of the finest portable retro gaming devices I've ever had in my life. And this is one of the latest models, the RG40XXV. A totally different form factor, totally different approach. Now, I wanted to compare the two, given that this is at least 3 years old device for me, and this one arrived in my hands just a little less than a week ago. And I wanted to see if the advancement in technology and design for Anbernic has paid off. Let's see. Now, in the old one, there are a lot of the inlays and stuff that are not here anymore. You had the instructions. Now, this is a very, very well-made device. It's metallic. It's extremely solid. It is heavy, but nothing too big or too tiresome for your hands, especially this day and age with devices like Steam Deck. It has one SD card slot. You have a reset button. Here you have an input for 3mm jack, 3.5 I think it is, for headphones. You have a communication USB input and communication and recharging. You can recharge the device only from this input. You have two shoulder buttons that are very pleasant to use. Select, start. You have the power on, power off, and an analog volume control. Let's turn it on. I have here loaded the Arcos. It's a custom firmware. It did not come with this. I found that almost every OS on the market at the time that I bought this could be used with this model. It was easy to install and it worked flawlessly. As you see, the response time is very, very fast. I have a custom menu here. Let's just try something, anything. It's a relatively fast device. The feeling on the sticks is quite good. Alright. It's very, very easy to control. It's a great feeling, it sticks. Now, as you can see here, the two thumbsticks, as they're called, are clickable also. The device has an excellent battery. The only complaint, if I may say, was and still is the small screen and the relatively simple technology on the screen. It's nothing to write home about. It's not bad, but in this day and age it's started showing its age. So that was one of the finest devices Anbernic had created, but it's a 3-year-old device. It's quite old. Let's see this. Now this is the RG40XXV device. Now, as you can see, this is a whole different beast. It's made of plastic to begin with. It's not as sturdy or as professional looking, let's say, as the RG351, but it's good plastic. It doesn't feel like, you know, it's a printed case or anything. It has two SD card slots, one thumbstick, clickable, a very good feeling at the cross pad, all the buttons, a menu button, select and start. Now we're gonna see, hopefully, how it plays on the monitor, because this one has a high definition output. Now there are two LEDs here. One is an indication that it's loading, the other one is for charging. We have the volume up and volume down here, digital buttons, not analog, a reset button and the power on. From here we have the communication USB port and charging port, and of course the headphones input. Now, the battery is quite good on this one. It went as far as 8 hours, let's say. I don't know how long it lasts long term. What do I mean? Is that the 351, the RG351 Anbernic here, I left it on the shelf for, I don't know, about 6 to 9 months. And when I turned it on, it had still 87% battery. I don't know how this will go with this one. We'll see. Now, I'll plug it in and we'll go see how it does. Now this is what greets you when you start up the device with the high definition cable connected. I want to see if I can, well, stretch it maybe. Let's go here and nope, I think that's the maximum resolution. Yeah. Over and under. Scan scaling. I don't know if there's something in the advanced settings. No, I'm afraid it's not. So this is what you get. Alright. After all, this is a portable device. Now, let's see the basics. In the configuration, you have the connectivity. You can connect to a network of your choice. You can have stored profiles, as you can see. I'll use here my office's profile. When you are connected, you will see the local address given by the network to you. Make sure you activate the Wi-Fi icon in the upper right corner. There you go. So, these are the settings. You can change them. There are various web services. Make sure you turn this on if you want to send back and forth files through the network to your Anbernic, and this if you want to use the remote cell. Oh, one last thing. There is a sync thing. It's what it's called here. That's a syncing option between various Anbernic devices for your gameplay. I don't know if it works efficiently, since the only other Anbernic I have is quite old, but when the third device arrives, we'll let you know. Now, oh, last one, I'm sorry. The USB function is defined by these three. Leave it as it is to charge. This is if you want to use the debug bridge in an Android OS, and this is just for transferring files. See, the menu changed. Now, I'll use the disabled. I have no idea why the menu just switched into something else. All right, now there is a pack of applications that's coming with your device. The Archive Manager you can download, install, and run self-installed packages. RT is one of the many scraping programs I've tested. It does not work. RT doesn't even start. I've tried various versions. Yeah, that was impressive. Now, Scrappy here does boot. It begins, but it always, no matter what I did, I changed the config files, I changed the location of the ROMs, I changed various things. I've been at it for 2 days now. It always says that it cannot find any platforms. I don't know if this has to do with the fact that I'm using a dual card configuration. Also, this is the Mustard OS. It is not the stock firmware. I've changed the stock firmware for one simple reason. You will see here at the Content Explorer that I have quite a collection of backup ROMs. Now, all I have to do to run, let's say, a ZX Spectrum game here is to go to the ZX Spectrum catalog, choose a game, Addidums, choose the core. I know it looks like trouble. The emulator, fuse, and the game again. Wait a bit, and there you go. You can use the on-screen keyboard and stuff like that. Now, of course, it's the RetroArch underneath. Now, the thing is that on the stock OS, I could not make the OS to, even though I managed to download all the necessary cores and emulators, it would not show me the the ZX Spectrum catalog, the Amstrad catalog, the Sharp X68000, and a variety of other systems, mostly 8-bit computers. I've scoured the internet, I've searched for the proper name I had to use for my directories. Nothing worked. There were different opinions. People telling me your catalog for the Spectrum game should be ZXS, others said ZX Spectrum, others said just Spectrum. Nothing seemed to work. And the sad thing is that, as opposed to Mustard OS, that I haven't managed to make any scraping service work, the stock OS comes with Tiny Scraper, a wonderful little program that's very fast, and it scrapes images and videos perfectly. This is a problem in this device. Some things work with one OS, one firmware, other things work with another. It stands somewhere in the middle, and you're gonna have to tinker with the device a lot if you want to bring it to the level you want. Now, let's go and sum it up. Now, we've seen the end result, we've seen what it can do. This is a fine device, there's no doubt about it. But there are things that need improvement. Let's begin with the good things. The screen is excellent, it's absolutely stunning. It's one of the best screens I've seen in such a device. It's very clear, it's solid gold, I would say. It's not, of course, an LED screen, but it's good enough. It's for the money you're paying for this. It's a very good screen. It's big enough, not bulky, like a Steam Deck, like we said, but not as small as the previous creations of Anbernic. I do fancy the rainbow colors here on the stick that are adjustable, but the device needs improvement. It needs better compatibility with the OSs, the various firmware out there, because Anbernic changes the devices so often. There's a lot of firmware that's supposed to work here, but it's broken. It's simply broken. The battery needs improvement in the charging area especially. And I would also say that the device faces a lot of hang-ups, a lot of times where the operating system is just stuck, it's frozen. Also, the whole scraping thing, if you're moving away from the stock firmware, it's a very painful story, like we said. On the other hand, the stock firmware, the stock OS works better, but it lacks in support and it needs a lot of tinkering that a lot of people that just want a device to play their retro games with are not willing to do. So in total, if we had to rank it as we do the software, I would say that this is a 7.5 degree, 7.5 rank device by Anbernic. It's good for its money, make no mistake there, but compared to the older device I've shown you, this is a 9. This is a solid 9. Even today, by today's standards and all the things that's lacking by today's standards, it would be an 8.7 at worst. So this is a good device for its money, but it needs vast improvements. Soon we'll have our hands on another Anbernic device that's on the way, we've been told, and then we'll make a triple comparison and see how it goes. Until then, see you next time. We have a treat for you this week on The Vault. This is Exolon, the Continuing Adventures, an amazing unofficial sequel to the classic game by Space-Time Games. And what a sequel that is! The game uses the same gameplay formula as the classic Exolon. You are Vitork, the hero of the first game, and after being banned from returning to Earth due to possible contamination, even though you saved it from an alien invasion, you head back to the alien world, only to find that the enemy has rebuilt, regrouped, and prepares for a second attempt of invasion. Of course, it's up to you to destroy them, even if Mother Earth has turned its back on you. The game packs some amazing graphics that stand somewhere between retro and modern style. The animation and the colors are simply great, and the areas you visit are well designed, and each screen is also a minor puzzle as far as the approach you need to take to make it to the other side unscathed. Make no mistake, this is a tough game and will need good skills to make it through its stages alive. The music is not only wonderful, but it manages to give those early days Houston vibes without sounding old. The sound effects are also spot on and add to the action. The controls are just as you remember them from the original game, so they shouldn't pose no problem. On with the rankings, and the graphics receive a 9.4. The controls, a 9. The music and sound effects, a 9.2. And the gameplay, a 9.1. For a total of 9.2. This is a sequel to a classic that it's also a future classic in itself.
Control room, the main gun is offline.
Our retrospect review this week brings back from the depths of time one of the most overlooked but quite unique action-adventure games of the late DOS era. This is Bioforge by Origin Games. Bioforge placed you in the shoes of a prisoner in a remote space prison who, having been captured by some evil corporation, you pay for your crimes by having a twisted corporate doctor experiment on you in horrible ways, turning you into some sort of cyborg. Thankfully, some unknown catastrophe brought down security forces, and you get your chance to escape, trying to find out who you are, who did this to you, and most importantly, how to escape this space hell. The game implemented the famous at the time, because of the first Resident Evil success, tank controls. This alone made the game a lot harder to play, thus leading to some harsh reviews from a portion of the press at the time. But beneath the problematic control system lies an amazing experience of a game, filled with horror, action, agony, and some really challenging puzzles. The game, of course, partly because of the controls, lies in the upper tier of difficulty, but it does not get to extreme levels ever. The graphics were very good for the time, with big early 3D models and some great choices of color for techno-industrial environments. It implements full speech for every character or AI you meet, and of the highest quality too. The controls are of course the Achilles heel, as we said, but we believe that one should try to look past that, lest you lose a great experience. The music is atmospheric and moody, and falls in line with the whole tech horror theme. The rankings are as follows: graphics 9.2, controls 7, music and sound effects 9, gameplay 8.8, for a total of 8.5. Bioforge is and remains a flawed gem, albeit one that you must revisit or try out if you didn't get the chance back in the day. It will not disappoint you if you find it in you to look past its problematic controls. Welcome to Retro Adventures, and we begin with the amazing Neon Heart City, a cyberpunk adventure game by Dionysus Games. You play as Elijah Crow, a private eye, in a futuristic dystopian city, and you try to pick up the track of a missing girl, only to stumble upon a conspiracy of epic proportions.
Happens every day.
We won't give up any more of the story, as this would take away much of the enjoyment of playing the game, but suffice to say this is a quality tale worth discovering.
It's always been a pit. Busy night?
Just the usual.
The graphics of the game are top-notch, with environments that fit perfectly to the whole cyber Big Brother atmosphere. The characters have big, excellently animated
The basketball
sprites,
court on Marshall.
with the colors
Last
bringing
month, there
up
was a
a
time when
neon
every block
feeling,
had one.
as they
Or
should,
maybe an ice rink. Now
without
it's a
making the
relic,
game look
like those radio
cartoony.
rental shops.
There is full speech for the dialogues, along
Evening.
with the text. And let
always
us
come
tell
out here
you
to
that
shoot
the
an
actors
Exolon if
behind
it's
the voiceovers
Nope, except
should
Laura.
receive an
Has to be
award
noted.
for their performance.
This place is the only comic
The
shop for
user
miles.
interface
Probably
is
Phil and Audrey like to
simple
hang around.
and intuitive, and at the same time lets you enjoy the game without hindrance.
We know it's bomb. No refunds though.
Not
This is an
Oh,
adventure game of
everyone's been
very
asking
high
for
quality,
the off
and
day.
even if the world it draws doesn't
Right.
exactly
I'd
hit
ride
a
if I
soft
were a
spot
fan,
in your
but
tastes, you should still experience it, if nothing else, for the production quality
It's
and
just
the
the way someone
amazing
tastes.
story.
And you get a commission.
True, but how do I
The
know?
graphics
Like the last
receive a
tower defense,
9.5.
Cybernetics. Or cutting-edge tech
The
takes on
music
life.
and sound
Stories say
effects
they built a
a
mechanized model.
9.1.
One so it tracks subatomic
The
particles.
controls a
If I
9.
could see the future, I'd be buying lottery. I'd retire
Puzzles
early,
an
spend my days on one of those
8.9,
perfect-
for a total of
something glints in the
9.1.
sand. In
A
this
modern
day, it's as good as
masterpiece
junk.
that you shouldn't miss. Everybody loves a good detective story, and in our retro adventure game retrospect, we remember the wonderful Lost Files of Sherlock Holmes, the case of the Serrated Scalpel by Mythos Software. The story follows the iconic British detective, along with his assistant Watson, as they try to unravel the mystery of a murder that closely resembles the actions of Jack the Ripper, only to fall upon a much more sinister plot. The graphics back in 1992 that the game came out were simply astounding. The animation of the characters, along with a gloomy and atmospheric palette used whilst utilizing 256 colors, was amongst the best of their time. The game came out also for the 3DO, with the character portraits being replaced by actual actors filmed in place of the animated ones. The game utilizes speech in many cutscenes, whilst the 3DO version uses full speech everywhere. The user interface was a little crowded, and it sometimes takes a little trial and error to combine the correct commands, but you will get used to it eventually. The game is accompanied by an excellent soundtrack that adds to the mystery, but is a bit too loud, covering the speech where available, and there doesn't seem to be a way to lower the volume, only to turn it off completely. The game divided critics back in the day, with some considering it a bit too automated as far as some actions and puzzle solving are concerned, whilst others believed that it showed the future of adventure gaming and should be considered amongst the best games ever. Whatever the case, nowadays it is considered a classic adventure game, and it's worth revisiting. The ranking is as follows. Graphics 9.2. Controls 8. Music and sound effects 9.2. Puzzles 8. For a total of 8.6. Masterpiece or not, The Lost Files of Sherlock Holmes is a classic game that every fan of the iconic detective should revisit or experience for the first time. You may think that the Nintendo vs. Sega was the first great war in our favorite medium, the video and computer games industry. You may think so, but you'd be wrong. There was another, much greater war back in the late 70s to early 80s that not only shook the industry to its core, but shaped it for the years to come and even led to the form of today's industry. This is the computer price wars of the 80s. We begin way back in late 70s when practically there were only a few players in the industry. The most important platforms were the Apple II and Commodore PET. The former was a home platform mostly for hobbyists, small businesses and students. Of course, you would have to be in the rich spectrum of income, as an Apple II back in those days would set you back a good $1,298, the equivalent of $7,000 in today's money. The PET, on the other hand, was a pure business and corporate computer. It came with no gaming or graphics capabilities. It had a tape recorder built in and was bulky and also expensive. Funnily enough, less than Apple II, in the rates of $795, the equivalent to $4,500 today. The gaming industry was still at the beginning, and most video games could be found mainly on Apple II or one of the many Pong clones. A while later, in late '77, Atari introduced the Atari VCS 2600, the console that was going to change the face of the industry, and the game was on. The thing is that Nolan Bushnell, to fund the creation and development of the Atari VCS, had to sell his biggest portion of Atari to the Warner Bros. Corporation, bringing in deep pockets and deeper problems. On the Commodore corner, the big brains in Commodore, under the leadership of the founder and at the time CEO of Commodore, the legendary boogeyman of the industry, Jack Tramiel, were hard at work with a new computer that brought all sorts of innovations with it. That computer was Commodore's first home system, the VIC-20. This was a very important system, as it was the first computer not directly addressed to the hobbyist or the rich only. It was introduced at the price of $299.95, the equivalent to today's money of $1,200. It was then that Jack announced his legendary dogma, included in one phrase: computers for the masses, not the classes. The Atari company, now under the rulership of Warner executives, and more specifically Ray Kassar, a tough and rough corporate man that even though it would catapult Atari from a $100 million company to a $2.4 billion one, he would also be the man who brought it to its knees, was quick to respond. Ray Kassar had one of their top engineers design a new two-chipset combination that would be so far ahead of the competition that it would take them years to catch up. The CTIA chip was the one that handled sprites and background graphics, but to reduce load on the main CPU, it unloaded part of the job to a dedicated microprocessor, the alphanumeric television interface controller known as the Antique. The chips worked together to produce the display. The engineer's name was J. Miner. Yes, that J. Miner, the legendary father of the Amiga. The new computer system would have two iterations, one placed at the affordable range, and one for those who wanted to pay more for more power. The system's names were Atari 400 and Atari 800 home microcomputers. The Atari 400 cost $550, the equivalent to $2,600 today, and the Atari 800, $1,000, approximately $4,700 today. But at the very last moment, there was another competitor. The industry leader at the time for chipset, semiconductors, and manufacturing was the Texas Instruments Corporation, whose chipsets could be found in almost every system in the 70s, 80s, and even early 90s computers. Seeing the prices of RAM production following a descending course and having the advantage of in-house chipset design and manufacturing, TI decided that it was time to show the competition/customers how it was done. Thus, the TI 99/4 was created, the world's first 16-bit home microcomputer in a market full of 8-bit systems. It was a system using mainly cartridges as a storage media, color graphics, and even speech peripherals at the competitive price of $1,150, the equivalent to $5,000 today. Believe it or not, there was another one. One with the deepest pockets, the biggest experience, and the most respect in the industry. In 1981, IBM brought out the first IBM personal computer with a price of $1,565, roughly $6,000 in today's money. Of course, the IBM PC was a bulky, monochrome, unfriendly, and mostly business machine, but it was yet another competitor. Now, the main star of the price wars was none other than Jack. Jack was one of the industry's veterans even then. A survivor of a World War II concentration camp, Jack learned to survive by any means necessary, and he brought this practice with him in his business activities. The main reasons for initiating the price wars were two. First, Jack was convinced that the industry needed a powerful leader to face a vague but certain, according to him, future Japanese invasion of computer products that would overflow the American market. Secondly, he believed that the computers belonged in the living room and that companies like Apple made the products look like a niche thing, and that would eventually lead to the extinction of the market if the consumers started seeing the computers as a fad. The market leader initially was the Texas Instrument with the TI 99/4, and the new model introduced a little while later, the TI 99/4A by Texas Instruments. During the first semester of 1982, Texas Instruments was selling 5,000 computers a day. But there was a reason for that. Commodore had introduced earlier in 1982 its new creation, the heavyweight for those days, Commodore 64, a far more powerful and improved system than the VIC-20. Having covered the main system market, Jack used the VIC-20 production as a siege ram to lead the relentless price war in the budget area. Commodore repeatedly lowered the price of the VIC-20 from $299.95 to $130, creating shockwaves in the market. Atari lowered the price of the introductory model, Atari 400, to $349 and 800s to $699 in an attempt to keep up with the competition. The thing was, though, that Atari's advanced graphics and sound technology came at a cost, and these price cuts already had Atari selling below cost to remain competitive. To make matters worse, in late 1980, another company entered the market. The famous Radio Shack electronics chain introduced through its Tandy subsidiary the Radio Shack Coco, or Tandy Color Computer, with a launch price of $399, quickly slashed to $349, and its network of electronic stores as a retailer throughout the country. Of course, the Commodore 64 at the time was priced at $595, the equivalent of $2,200 today. But that was also cut down to $299 by June 1983. Texas Instruments had to remain competitive in order to stay on top, so it made one more attempt to come on top of the price wars by slashing the price of the TI-99/4A to $150 and halting production of the original TI-99/4 line of systems. Of course, $150 was way below the manufacturing costs of the computer, and this meant trouble. During the late days of 1983, the war concluded, with heavy repercussions for almost everyone involved. Atari made a last attempt at cutting the prices of its systems to go as low as $165 for the Atari 400. It also introduced a new range of systems, the 1200 XL, and almost immediately the Atari 600 XL and 800 XL, to replace the older models, effectively rebooting the line and the pricing. The company was also facing the results of the video game crash of '83 that resulted in Warner Bros. Cutting the company in half and putting the computers division up for sale. Texas Instruments finally threw in the towel, and amongst heavy money bleeding, it quit the computer manufacturing industry altogether, returning to its chipset and semiconductors roots. IBM separated itself from the home market, especially after the PC Junior debacle, and wouldn't return for almost a decade. Only Radio Shack kept on selling the Coco line, but eventually only through its retail store chain and without gaining a significant portion of the market ever. Apple all this time refused to be dragged to the madness of the price wars, and even moved on in its line of computers with further products like the Apple IIe. Having placed itself in a different league than the others, with introduction of Macintosh line, Apple deliberately moved towards a more business and luxury image. A funny fact, as Apple was one of Jack's initial targets. And what about Commodore and Jack? Even though by late 1983 Commodore was the clear leader of the American computer market with a portion of 75%, the price wars costed the company a huge amount of cash. It also has left her out of the fact that the market had moved on to the European continent after the video game crash of 1983, and the heart of the industry was now bidding in the UK. New competitors had risen there and already occupied the biggest part of the market with systems like the British Icon ZX Spectrum. Chairman of the board Irving Gould was not about to let this go, and he confronted Jack Tramiel in a stormy meeting that resulted in the ousting of Jack from his own company. Jack would go on to buy the Atari Computers division that was up for sale by Warner, with a sole purpose initially to avenge his old company. But that is a story for another time.